Have you ever, like, completely blanked on someone's name? You know, someone you've definitely met before, even had a decent conversation with, but then, poof, their name is just gone.
Yeah. Happens to all of us. It's that kind of awkward, almost embarrassing feeling, right?
Exactly. And it's that very scenario that we're diving into today. I mean, who hasn't been there?
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that we're going to be listening to a really simple, everyday conversation in English.
Hmm.
But even within this seemingly basic interaction, there are all sorts of interesting nuances and subtleties about communication and the phrases we use all the time without even thinking about it.
Exactly. And the source material we're going to be using today is a short clip from YouTube from a channel called English Podcast Zone. The title of the video is Learn English Quickly with Podcast English Learning Conversation Episode 1. And it's basically just a quick dialogue between two people, Nick and Anna, who bump into each other after having met at a conference.
And that's the thing, right? They've already met. And the core of this encounter, the thing that I think really resonates with everyone, is this moment where Nick totally forgets Anna's name,
Yep.
even though they just met recently.
Which makes it so much more awkward, of course.
Exactly.
So what we're going to do is sort of dissect this short exchange. We're not just looking at vocab here. I mean, we are going to pull out some handy phrases for you. But we really want to extract some genuinely useful insights into how people actually speak English naturally, you know? Get a feel for the rhythm of real conversation and all the little subtleties. So let's jump right into that initial hello, shall we? The conversation starts with Anna saying, Nick, how's it going?
Yeah, and what I think is interesting about that is how common this greeting is, right? Like, obviously, how are you is totally fine, but how's it going? Just has this slightly more informal, everyday feel. It's the way people actually talk.
More natural.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More natural.
And Nick replies, oh, hey, what are you doing in this neighborhood? Do you live around here? And here we have our first phrase to sort of unpack a little. Around here. Basically, Nick is checking if Anna lives locally.
Exactly. And Anna's response gives us a little more detail. She says, actually, my office is right around the corner. So right around the corner is a little more specific, right? It basically means really close by, like on the next street. It's another way of saying around here.
Exactly. And then she adds, it was great to meet you last week at the conference. I really enjoyed our conversation about foreign investment. So this context, I think, is key. Because they've met, it seems like they had a perfectly good chat about foreign investment, of all things, which makes it all the more awkward when, later on, Nick forgets her name.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It highlights how past interactions, even brief ones, kind of set the stage for future ones. Because you'd think, oh, they've already connected, so the next time they see each other, it's going to be super smooth.
Mm-hmm. Right. It should be. So the conversation moves on, and Nick says, yeah, it was really interesting. You know, I'm in a bit of a hurry, but here's my card. We should definitely meet up again and continue our discussion. So there we go. In a bit of a hurry. Our first really handy phrase you can take away and start using.
Oh, absolutely. This is a great one. In a bit of a hurry. Just means that you don't have a lot of time. You got to get moving. It's so useful.
Mm.
And the video gives us some good examples of how you can use it. Like, can you drive faster? I'm in a bit of a hurry. Or, I can't talk right now. I'm in a bit of a hurry. Or even, I'm in a bit of a hurry, so I'll check these files later. You know, it just shows how versatile this phrase is for politely explaining that you need to keep things brief.
Exactly. It's a softer way of saying, like, I'm short on time, but without sounding rude. And Nick follows that up by, you know, giving his card, suggesting they get together again. And Anna then asks, sure, you still have my contact details, right? Which brings us to another key term, contact details.
This is a pretty straightforward one, but important to know nonetheless. I mean, contact details just refers to that info that allows people to get in touch with you, right? Think of what's usually on a business card.
Yeah.
Your name, phone number, email address, maybe even a website these days. It's basically all the information that someone needs to connect with you later.
Right. Simple but essential. Now, here comes the juicy part, the slightly embarrassing moment that we've all probably experienced at some point. Nick says, you know what, this is really embarrassing, but your name has just slipped my mind. Can you remind me? So there it is. Slipped my mind. Another awesome phrase.
Yeah, slipped my mind is a super common way to say that you've forgotten something. Accidentally, of course. The video gives some good examples like, I'm sorry I forgot to respond to your email. It just slipped my mind. Or, don't you know what day it is today? Oh, it's your birthday? It completely slipped my mind. So these examples really illustrate how we use slipped my mind for those moments when something just vanishes from our brains.
Yeah, like your brain is a whiteboard and someone just wiped it clean.
Right.
And Anna's response is just perfect. She says, sure, sure. My name is Anna Faris. Don't worry about it. It happens to me all the time. I'm terrible with names, too. And this leads us to another phrase worth noting. Terrible with.
Oh, yeah, she handles that beautifully, right? Just brushes it off.
Mm.
And terrible with is really useful for expressing that you're not good at something.
Yeah.
And again, the video has some clear examples. You're terrible with numbers. You can't even remember your own telephone number. I'm terrible with directions. I'm always getting lost. I'm terrible with faces. I can never remember what people look like, you know. So these examples demonstrate how you can use terrible with for just about anything you struggle with.
Yeah. And I think it's funny how, like, readily people admit to being terrible with names. It's almost a socially acceptable failing. Like, everyone gets it.
Right. It's like a free pass.
Totally. So let's go back to those location phrases for a sec. We've got around here, right around the corner, and then you mentioned another variation that came up, around there, as in living near Los Angeles.
Yeah, around there is a bit more general. So if you were to ask someone, is there a good coffee shop around there? You mean in that general area, not necessarily on the same block.
So less specific than around here or right around the corner.
Exactly.
Okay. And thinking back to that phrase, terrible with again, what I found interesting in the video is that both Marco and Erica, the hosts, actually shared their own personal experiences, one saying they're terrible with numbers and the other with faces. And it kind of feels like a way to connect, right? Through shared weaknesses. Makes the conversation more human.
For sure. It's that relatable aspect. And it's really effective.
Now, circling back to that initial greeting, how's it going? The video makes a point about using this in casual settings and how it can make your English sound more natural.
Yeah, and I think what's fascinating here is how these tiny linguistic choices can impact how you're perceived.
Right.
I mean, you can use more formal greetings,
Yeah.
but when you use how's it going in the right context, it can signal that you're just more comfortable with the language.
It's like you're saying, I'm relaxed, I'm at ease with this.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the video also features Marco and Erica sharing a couple of their own personal stories about forgetting people's names, which I think is something everyone can relate to. Like, Marco tells this funny story about blanking on a family member's name at a reunion and having to subtly get help from a cousin.
Oh, classic move. Happens all the time.
Totally. If you're in that situation, finding someone who knows you both and discreetly asking them, it can be a total lifesaver.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
And Erica shares her go-to strategies for when it happens in a business setting, either asking for a business card, just like Nick did, or asking them to write down their email address, which usually includes their full name.
That's so smart.
Right. Very practical advice. It's a smooth way to get the information you need without directly admitting, hey, I forgot your name.
Exactly. Smooth save.
So for anyone listening, just remember, incorporating how's it going into your casual English conversations is such a simple tweak, but it can really make you sound more fluent.
Yeah. And the original video actually has an audio review section at the end, which is really useful if you want to nail down the vocabulary and phrases we've been talking about. It goes back through the meanings and gives you example sentences for everything from how's it going to forgetful, a great way to reinforce everything.
So, I mean, honestly, you get a lot from this short little clip. You've now got a better grasp on, in a bit of a hurry, for explaining you're short on time. Contact details and how to ask for them. Slipped my mind for those brain fart moments, the subtle differences between around here, around there, and right around the corner. And you know how to use terrible with to talk about those things you're not so good at. Plus, you've got a new, more casual greeting, how's it going, and a couple of clever ways to handle those situations where you just completely forget someone's name. Not bad, huh?
Not bad at all. And what I think is really interesting to think about here is this idea of why forgetting a name is such a big deal, socially speaking. It's so common, but it always feels a little awkward. Maybe because we don't want to seem rude or like we haven't been paying attention. But this conversation kind of highlights how universal that experience actually is. But this also brings up another question. Besides the actual words being spoken, what other little cues in conversations give you information? Like, think about things like tone of voice, body language, even the context of where you are. All these subtle elements influence how we understand each other. So how do you navigate those tricky social moments in your own life?
Yeah, that's a great point. And on that note, we always love to hear your thoughts, so let us know. What other everyday conversations in English do you find interesting? Or what communication challenges would you like us to dissect in future deep dives? Let us know, and maybe we'll tackle them next time.
We'd love to hear from you.
Until then, happy chatting.
Bye for now.